Luke Weaver is expected back with the Yankees tonight. We'll talk about his return and a whole lot more coming up on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Hello and welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Clay Link of RotoWire.com. Here with FSWA Hall of Famer Todd Zola, a fellow TGFBI overall champion. Todd
Not
Zola.
this year.
Well, that's all right. Good to be on with you as always, Todd. And yeah, Luke Weaver expected back. I just kind of want to put you on the spot for a second and say rest of season between Luke Weaver and Devin Williams. Who do you say ends up with more saves for this Yankees club?
Williams. I'm not in a waiver. He's pitched well enough to capture the job. Weaver has shown he can do well in a setup role. I think Weaver's back. I mean, I'm sorry. I think that Williams is back. Mm-hmm. Didn't he strike out the side in his last outing? I'm pretty sure he did.
The airbender,
maybe not
working.
No, wait, no, he did. Yeah, his last outing did strike out the side. It was last night, as a matter of fact, or yesterday. I think we're back. Hasn't given up a run. Well, the third one run this month. I think he's back.
Yeah, he's nailed down. Yeah, quite a few consecutive save chances. His last blown save technically was back in April. So yeah, he does seem to be back. And
last walk was the 25th in Colorado. I mean, I understand the question clearly.
Yeah,
but I'm not. No wavering here. Devin Williams.
So in a kind of a shallower league, maybe a 10 or a 12, Weaver a cut, or do you wait and see maybe?
Contextual, but I think I'm cutting.
Yeah.
I mean, in a deeper league where the strikeouts help, there'll be the occasional save, sure. But no, I mean, roster spots, there are so many. I mean, in my 10-team ESPN head-to-head league, I don't even have a starting pitcher. I'm running with 7 closers, and I'm moving in starting pitchers. It's just the way I'm doing it this year. I would not have a spot for Luke Weaver, even though ESPN uses holds. I still wouldn't have a spot for him.
Interesting. Well, I hosted with Fred Zinke on Tuesday. Definitely enjoyed that. We talked a little bit about Michael Tolia of the Rockies. I wasn't very interested, just given the strikeouts. It's just a little bit too volatile of an asset. But in the days since, Tolia has been hot. 4 games since his return, he has 6 hits, including 3 home runs.
But 5 strikeouts.
True. 5 strikeouts, only 1 walk. But reports that he's looking like a more confident hitter since that reset at AAA. He was the top pickup in the stake league last night, Tolia, at $8. What's your level of interest in Tolia? Do you think this turnaround is legitimate?
If you tell me, the 5 strikeouts work out to 28%. If you tell me he's 28% the rest of the year, I'm fine. I will take the power in Coors Field with a 28% strikeout rate, and that's considering strikeouts are down this year. Not a ton, but I mean they're down a percent. So he's your corner. He's not your first baseman team foundation. Totally is in your corner, and you're going to get highs and lows. And if you can get him out of your lineup for some away games, that's even better. But I'm all right now. I mean, if I'm in the market for a corner infield, he's definitely on my radar again. Don't love the 5 strikeouts, but like you said, it's palatable with all the homers.
Yeah, I'm more open to it, just given his success in recent days. But I'm still, a guy with that level of swing and miss can just go so cold for a stretch and really actively hurt you, not just not help you, but hurt your standing in rotisserie leagues. So, I'd rather have like Caglione or one of those types.
Oh, for sure.
It's a little more upside, yeah. But last year was pretty good for Tolia. So if he can tap into that, he can be useful the rest of the way, certainly. Hunter Dobbins, the second highest priced player last night in the stake league, Fab. $7 for Dobbins. He's starting tonight against San Francisco, and he's got a slew of good matchups coming up at San Francisco, then at the Angels tentatively next week, home against the Reds, home against Colorado, So yeah, the immediate future lines up pretty well for Dobbins. How do you feel about him as a regular in your starting lineup?
Well, the good thing about facing San Francisco is they've got no left-handed batters in their lineup, right?
Yeah, nobody too good at lefty
Um,
slugger.
I mean, Dobbins is a streamer. He's been throwing strikes. That's what you want a guy like Hunter Dobbins to do. A couple of good games against the Yankees and put him on the Fab radar map. I think I don't. I think the immediate future. I don't know. I don't see anybody. There's Tanner Houck had a setback. I don't think there's anybody that's going to take his job, especially because Walker Buehler might be losing his, but he hasn't been very good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Dobbins is fine. I mean, I picked him up even before this, just as a streamer. If you're gonna use him at home games at Fenway, you're gonna use him almost everywhere. So tonight, interesting game this evening. We shall see how that goes. We got a obviously Devers. We'll talk a little bit. Will your Braves coming back? What happens there? But yeah, I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, a good little short term, see what happens type of guy, and pitching well enough to warrant consideration in a lot of leagues. So yeah, I kind of like that. Kumar Rocker picked up at 6. Not really a huge fan, but Ryan Gusto has been mucho gusto lately. $6. Michael Burrows at 3. Mickey Moniak at 3. Nolan Gorman for $1. Ramon Laureano for $1. Then I picked up on a stash Chase DeLauder for Cleveland. Now, he missed a good chunk of the start of the season after sports hernia surgery and only recently returned up to AAA Columbus. But homers in back-to-back games at Columbus. And it's not like there are huge obstacles in front of him in that Cleveland outfield. So he's currently got a 903 OPS, 290 average at Columbus. Only 19 games, but kind of had a roster spot to work with Zach Agnes still on my roster. So that was an easy drop. And I just wanted to mention that pickup. And I want to give credit where it's due here. Let me look up. It was our friends over at Pitcher List. They had the stash list hitter edition. So that's where I kind of got the idea of Jack Mueller from Pitcher List. So just wanted to give him a shout out because DeLauder was not really on my radar, but good article there. And just the guy who I don't expect, I'm not plugging him into my lineup, but it could be up in Cleveland before long.
There's a need, right? I wish DeLauder could play center. I don't know that he can. Lane Thomas has been better. Nolan Jones, Jonathan Rodriguez kind of platooning there in right field. No, there's definitely an opening. You know what? If Kyle Manzardo, at some point, if they cut bait on Carlos Santana, which could happen. Santana's not doing much. We could see DeLauder in designated hitter. Kind of giggling a little bit when you're saying Chase DeLauder. Our buddy Jeff Erickson has him in the XFL. Oh, yeah. There's one year where DeLauder was drafted like 4 times, and Jeff's, I have him already. So that became the running joke. Whenever there's a break, we write in, who you taking? What's taking so long? DeLauder's already gone. Come on now. So anyway, so the XFL is well aware. I don't know if Jeff kept him. I don't remember if Jeff kept him or not, though. But no, he's been on the radar for a little while. Power hitter. I like that call by PL. I like that call by Pitcher List.
Yeah, he's a big boy. I think he's 6'4", and I think James has him 3rd in the organization among prospects.
Yep, and as opposed to Manzardo, who's kind of a gap-to-gap guy, DeLauder's got troop. He's got power. He's a slugger.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like Manzardo is starting to see his playing time fall off just a little bit. Not playing much against lefties at all. Yeah,
he was kind of getting it together and got first base eligibility. But right, yeah, it has fallen. Cleveland, they got to find the right combination. They got some tools, but they haven't quite hit on the right. Jowenski Noel, who I was into, and didn't really appear till the second half of last year. If DeLauder can give them what Noel gave him last year, that wouldn't be bad.
Yeah. just totally off topic, but when you mentioned John Kenzie, I was thinking about one of the great nicknames in the game right now. The password for your Red Sox, Josh Nixon Garcia.
Yeah, well,
I just like that nickname, and he's doing well at AAA, by the way. 916 OPS, 6 homers.
It's my score sheet league. I just saw him picked up in my score sheet league, which is a really nice pull because you're drafting really bad reserves if you're trying to compete or trying to figure out what minor leaguers are emerging before the draft. Because there's a score sheet draft right after the major league draft, which all the good prospects are taken. So yeah, that was a very nice pick in the score sheet. Speaking of which, I need to check to see my queue hasn't run out yet, but we'll do that after the show.
The password is sort of like the new Big Christmas, just kind of taking over as the best nickname in the game. Emerson Hancock, a $0 ad. Then here's one I want to run by you. Masataka Yoshida, $0. It feels like the Devers trade happened like a month ago, but it happened since we last talked, I believe. Kind of clears up a little bit of a logjam for the Red Sox, but still kind of uncertain as to when Yoshida will be back and what his role will be exactly. But the last we heard, his season debut could be sped up, according to Christopher Smith of MassLive.com.
You still have 4 outfielders for 3 spots. Well, in the outfield now, so you can be rotating Anthony Duran, Rafaela, or Abreu through the DH spot. But it doesn't hurt to get Yoshida some at bats, if nothing else, for a deadline deal where you trade away as part of. I think it doesn't hurt. There's not nearly as much of a roadblock, but I still think that the Red Sox are going to want to keep the other outfielders fresh. Although, I mean, he's a lefty, but there'll be some platooning going on with that pair. Well, that quartet as well.
Yeah, and they did send Christian Campbell down.
Yes, with Abreu coming up tonight, Campbell. Yeah. And his contractor sent to the minors, so we know who's buying dinner tonight.
Yeah, sign that. What was it? $60 million?
Yeah.
8 years, $60 million extension. Had that great April, but the realities of Major League Baseball finally showed up, and still excited about him long term.
Oh, sure.
Campbell, but
and the defense was lacking.
Yeah.
And this is a team that leads the league in errors, and part of it's because of Christian Campbell. So yeah. I'm not surprised by the move. I'd like to just say, this is your position, Christian, work on it. I am going to be following what he's playing down in the minors, but then you run into the logjam again. When Alex Bregman is back, you just move Marcelo Meyer over to second, because Trevor Story has been playing a little bit better lately. So the outfield logjam, outfield DH logjam was taken care of. Now we're going to get one in the infield sooner than later.
Yeah, I don't see Campbell's career going the route of like a Scott Kingery type after his big extension. But it'll just hit the reset button for Campbell, and you give others an opportunity in the meantime. Maybe some David Hamilton in the infield for the time being. But interesting team. And I saw that Devers for San Francisco not expected to debut at first base during the series against the Red Sox. So that would have been kind of awkward.
Right.
More awkward than things already are between those two sides.
Yeah, exactly. The story that I read was, and it was that he'll be taking ground balls. It may be a little bit before Devers plays first base. And it's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to. Mm-hmm. Talking to James Anderson this week. I'm sorry, RotoWire's own James Anderson this week. I think he had it legally changed on, I think, the Wednesday show on Sirius. He's not changing his outlook or expectations for Bryce Eldridge, and neither are the Giants. They're going to continue to treat him as a first baseman, and then let things flesh out if and when the time comes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all I have for pickups this week. Anybody else? Let me see the CBS pickups, but anybody else on your mind ahead of Fab this weekend?
I don't know so much. I think was it Didier Fuentes coming up tonight for Atlanta? I think I would have liked to have heard James's take, because I'm reading between the lines. I don't know. So this is a guy that's 20 years old, started out in single A and hasn't pitched much at each level, but it's all the way up to all the way up to AAA with Gwinnett, the team. So he's got James, I think 225 prospect, which is all right. It's not great, but it's still a top 400, right? And he's 20 years old. So you keep getting better and you move into the top 200, into the top 100. But I think it's interesting that Atlanta has clearly fast-tracked him. That could be because that they need him. You don't usually see a star fast-track this. So the fact James has him 225 is like, but the fact that Atlanta likes him, I'm interested. Now, tonight it's supposed to be a one-time deal, but we know that Atlanta's needed starters in the past. So I'm curious what goes on tonight with Fuentes. Whereas Tidwell played for the Mets, to me that's just a fill until Montas and Minaya come back. Not really as interested there.
Yeah, some of the pickups from CBS, just looking at the roster trends. Emmett Sheehan, one of the top ads. A little surprised to see him optioned to AAA yesterday,
especially with some of the guys that the team will be using in his stead.
That rotation has been thinned out big time.
Yeah,
so it was surprising to see that.
I think we'll see Sheehan back again. I think it's a way of. I think there's enough innings monitoring going on with Ohtani and some of the other pitchers that I think they just couldn't afford another, 3-4 inning guy and then bring in Robleski. I think they just they needed Sheehan for that game. I think the Dodgers want to stretch him out a bit more, and they just can't afford to do it at the major league level.
Yeah, Quinn Priester also here on the roster trends page for CBS, most added. Chase Burns of the Reds, who I thought about stashing, but he was already rostered by James, I believe.
Yeah.
Jurickson Profar, who's suspended but starting his rehab assignment.
I know you can't. I mean, it's not like the Braves were in the playoffs, but it's one of those things where he can't be in the playoffs. So you kind of wonder how much will the Braves use him. But they're not going to make the playoffs unless they improve.
Yeah.
So I think that argument goes away, at least for now.
And they just gave him that 3-year deal in the offseason?
Yeah.
Not that necessarily locks him in, but it does sound like they're going to give him a second chance. Brady House, I actually thought about picking him up instead of DeLauder, and it wouldn't have been a stash because Brady House is in the big leagues. His first couple big league hits in the bag now, but that Washington team's kind of a mess. So
broke an 11-game losing streak in 11 innings last night. I like Brady. I talked about it with Eric Halterman. Well, I'll talk about him tomorrow with Eric Halterman, not because we pre-record the Saturday show, but I like Brady House. The pathway to playing time is there. All right, it's only been not even half a season, and so I can't say he's done everything all he can do in AA, but he improved AAA. He improved from last year. If I need to make a move, I don't mind. I don't want to say going all in, but I can see making a triple-digit 20-25% investment in House, especially because third base, especially in the National League, just isn't that great.
That's a good point. If you have the flexibility with your roster, I could see it, certainly. Maybe I should have gone that route instead of
I like DeLauder's upside. If it's a stash, I like DeLauder. If you've been using, I don't know, Abraham Toro, I can't think. I have to go to the Red Sox as my default right now. Unless they're third baseman, I can see trying to lightning in a bottle with House.
Well, speaking of third baseman, although third base eligible now, he's an outfielder. Cam Smith also on this most added. He's
picking it up.
Yeah, he's really getting hot. I realized that most of his home runs have come in 2 games, but playing really good defense in the outfield, especially for a guy who just transitioned to right field this spring.
He and Junior Caminero are battling it out for hottest player right now. Well, I think Caminero overtook him the other night, but he and Caminero are both on a heater.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get into our 2-star pitchers for next week, but let's pause momentarily for a quick word from our sponsors. And we are back here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Clay Link here with Todd Zola. Always a pleasure to be with you on this Friday, Todd. And is the weather heating up there in the Northeast?
Yes.
It's getting hot here in Wisconsin.
It was hot and humid yesterday in the 90s. It's a little bit cooler today, but looking ahead, I saw a triple digits number in my future. So, yep, right now I'm comfortable. No fan on, windows closed to talk to you, but we're going to start sweating soon, which is fine.
Yeah, it's kind of been a pretty cool June actually here in
Yeah.
Wisconsin, but it's heating up. Got some days in the 90s coming up, and you got to expect the ball to start flying a little bit more, even though
Yes.
we know that those seams are raised, and it's not just a theory that the ball is not traveling so far.
Yeah.
As far.
No, for sure. Was it the Prospectus had the piece on it, I believe?
I think Eno had a piece on it.
Yeah, but I think Eno followed up what the story from the Prospectus, and Jason Collette's talked about it. The shift seam wake, more resistance on the seams are a little bit wider, and that would be why the ball, the exit velocity is the same, but the ball's not traveling quite as far. But yeah, no, it's going to be picking up as soon. I mean, it's going to be 90 in Colorado tonight, wind blowing out. Was it Corbin Carroll, I believe? He tried to talk himself into the lineup yesterday. You can be sure he's going to try to talk him in the lineup tonight in Coors Field.
Yeah, that'll be big for that team to get him back. It's kind of a team at a crossroads. I think Zach Gallen, is he starting tonight? He's kind of
not starting my team. I'm not using him. It's less damning using a pitcher in Colorado. We'll talk about pitchers in a moment, but I'm concerned about. Gallen. No, he can't have two starts if he's pitching tonight. I'm sitting Gallen. I can't point to a number and say it's bad luck. I don't know. Gallen's whip crept up last year and it's ballooned this year. I'm concerned about Zach Gallen.
Yeah, if they don't turn it around soon as a team, probably going to be sellers.
Yeah.
And a lot of pieces that they could sell. Suarez and Naylor, perhaps.
Yeah.
A lot of parts that could be on the move. But all right, let's get into our 2-star pitchers for next week. And we'll start with those Arizona Diamondbacks. And Eduardo Rodriguez, the lefty's got a couple of nice matchups here at the White Sox and home against Miami. It has not been pretty so far for Erod since his delayed start to the season. But yeah, if there's ever a spot to get on track, you would have to think it's this one. 5.93 ERA at the White Sox. I don't know their splits against the lefties exactly as teams, the White Sox and
I think they're terrible against both.
Yeah, that would make sense. So I'm thinking a 3 on Erod, even though he hasn't pitched like a 3.
It's a matchup driven 3, right? Yeah. It's like you can't not use him, but he hasn't earned it. I'm going 3 as well, but it's just maybe this provides the boost. Maybe this provides the confidence.
Yeah, that's true. We'll see about him and this whole team. But Luis Severino for the Athletics at Detroit and at the Yankees, two of the toughest offenses in the American League here. And 2-7, this team is really going downhill in a hurry. And my concern level with Mason Miller is starting to really tick up. But Severino at Detroit, I'm thinking a 1 here.
I'd like to use the narrative. He's away from home, but you know what? The skills at home aren't that much different than the skills on the road. These matchups are tough. I'm still gonna say go 2. I'm gonna go 2.
Okay.
I still believe. I'm still gonna go 2. I think a veteran. I'm gonna use the rises to the occasion narrative.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, for Atlanta, Chris Sale is going to be a 5, and frankly, I think Spencer Schwellenbach might be as well. But the matchups are pretty tough at the Mets and then versus Philly. Do you agree with me that Sale's, he's a 5, right?
I think they're both 5s, and this is, not thankfully, but this is the repercussion. Both their studs having 2 starts with Didier Fuentes going, and you can see with a full 7-game week, it's just been a busy stretch of ball for Atlanta.
Yeah, you say they're 2 studs, and they still have Spencer Strider there too. Yeah. Finally seems to be finding his.
Yeah, didn't he look a little better?
I'm surprised this team is not better than they are. I feel like with those 3, that's a pretty good 3-headed monster in the rotation. They should still be in the mix for a playoff spot at the end of the season.
With Olsen and Riley and Albies. I know Michael Harris is slumping, and I didn't even mention Acuna.
Oof, Michael Harris
That
has been rough.
you're right. I mean, as opposed to, we just talked about a team that I'm not expecting to come back, Arizona. I do expect Atlanta to make a bit of a run.
Yeah, that rotation's just. They got Grant Holmes too, who's been pretty good. Just
Yep.
too good to be as bad as they are. They've been especially bad since Acuna came back, which is just
not his fault.
Yeah, not his fault.
He's not running. Okay.
I gotta imagine this is the last year for Snitker. He's already indicated as much. But for the Orioles, who were starting to get a little hot, and I think they blew like an 8-run lead yesterday, didn't they?
Yes.
But they got Trevor Rogers here, the lefty who they traded Kyle Stowers for.
And Norby.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. Versus Texas, versus Tampa Bay, both at home. Was tempted to go one, but I can't even do it. I'm going zero.
I'm not tempted. I'm not even tempted.
I'm a little bit in like the man. I've been sinking like a rock in the Towers head to head. I cannot seem to feel the full roster. Every Monday or Tuesday or Friday, somebody goes on the IL. So that's been frustrating. I could always use another arm, maybe there, but that'd be like end of the list, very last priority type of thing in a points league. Walker Buehler, you mentioned it's been a rough season for him at the Angels versus Toronto for Walker Buehler. Really hard to feel good about trotting him out there. I'm probably going to go one given the Angels matchup, but that's where we're at this point on Buehler.
You'd like to think as a veteran he can figure it out, but I've been saying that for a month now. Mm-hmm. It's no longer early. We're in late July. Mm-hmm. I'm going one as well.
Real quick, we had a message comment here from JPAC. Wondering about streamers this weekend. Jose Soriano, Bryce Elder, or Emerson Hancock? Kind of bottom of the barrel options, not completely, but definitely some options that you're crossing your fingers and hoping for the best with. Hancock, I'd be a little reluctant because he's facing the Cubs in Chicago this weekend. Mm-hmm. Soriano home against Houston.
That's my guy.
Yeah. I wouldn't really lean Elder because it is at Miami, but it is Bryce Elder at the same time.
Soriano.
I'm going to lean Soriano as well.
8 quality starts. Only 5 outings, fewer than 6 innings. The strikeouts are there. He's not surprisingly, he's quietly having an effective season.
So what number did you put on Buehler, by the way? 1?
I give him a 1.
Okay. And then Jameson Tyone for the Cubs at St. Louis, at Houston. 7-4. The team's good. They got MVP candidate Pete Crow Armstrong playing center field at. Sorry.
2020.
Yeah, he's already reached. He's already reached 2020. That's insane. And I know Craig Counsell said that Pete Crow Armstrong playing the highest level of center field he's ever seen. It's pretty amazing that he's doing that on defense and 2020 so far. Tyone at St. Louis, at Houston. I'm thinking of 3. Might be high though.
Points league 3.
Yeah.
I'm going 2 otherwise, but yeah, it's going to round up to a 3. I mean, I think he had a rough one last time, but it's still Tyone. He's still 5 2/3, 6 innings every time.
Yeah, pretty boring. And if you have a stacked pitching staff, maybe you sit him down, but not a bad option, I would say. Nick Lodolo's got to face the Yankees at home and then the Padres at home. So 2 really tough matchups coming into Great American Small Park. And Lodolo's been all over the map. I mean,
yeah,
not showing the same kind of swing and miss dominance. Does have a 1.11 whip overall this season, but he's given up 4 homers his last 3 starts, had a 6-run hiccup in there. The matchups are just so tough too, especially the Yankees. All those right-handed sluggers. Ooh, I think I'm gonna go 2 just to have him a notch below Tyone and Erod. Just don't feel good about him this week.
Yeah, not missing the bats that I was hoping. I'm checking the swinging strike. Yeah, this the called strike rate's down as well. Both the swinging and the called are both down. So an adjustment needs to be made for Nick Lodolo. I like that he's healthy. Could potentially make said adjustment. I forget what you were at this point. I'm gonna go 2. He's not walking batters, and he's not giving up too many homers other than the recent stretch. But the strikeouts are just way down. I know they're down overall, but he's down 21% from a guy that we wanted closer to 30%.
Yeah, and I know that he changed up his pitch mix a little bit. Let me look at Baseball Savant, just to see his usage because
four seamers down, sinkers up,
yeah,
and then the change is up.
Yeah, he's been throwing more of the change. Looks like the curveball is actually pretty much spot on from last year. But, just not as. He's lost a little bit on the curveball in terms of whiff percentage, about 5 percentage points.
The sinker is designed to be a contact pitch and not necessarily a strikeout pitch. So the trade-off might be fewer homers, which he's getting, Lodolo, but fewer strikeouts as well. But oftentimes the strikeouts will then reappear. So
true.
I'm not giving up on it. But to me, now that we look at the numbers, it does make, everything fits. The puzzle makes sense.
Yeah, I just worry about, Judge and Stanton now back and those right-handed bats going into Cincinnati is going to be a tough go for Lodolo. Although the Yankees, I think I said it earlier, kind of had a rough week. Losing a bunch of games to the Angels, never what you want to do.
After being swept by the Red Sox.
Yeah. Logan Allen of the Guardians versus Toronto versus St. Louis. So a couple home starts, but I just don't really like the stuff. So I'm only going to go 1 here, I think.
I'm going to wait for the siren to go by. I am disappointed in Logan Allen. Am I even going to go 1? Maybe that's taking too much out on him. Yeah, I'll go 1, but I don't like. You know what? I'm going to go 0. I have not liked what I've seen. And I know they're home, but these are a couple of sneaky lineups. I'm going to go 0. Maybe that's what's a rage 0 or rage drop, whatever. When you drop a player because he was hurt you the night before, so he's your drop in fantasy. Maybe this is a rage 0.
I like that. You coined a phrase, and I like that. Herman Marquez, this has kind of become a thing where I went ahead and typed it out 0 ahead of time. I got to face the Dodgers and the Brewers. Shane Smith, though, for the White Sox, Rule 5 pick, has had a really nice run. 2.85 ERA, a little bit of a hiccup his last time out, 5 earned runs. I think that's the only time so far this season he's allowed more than 3 earned runs in a start. It's been a great find for this team. 1.22 whip, he's not helping you there, but not hurting you a ton either. Shane Smith versus Arizona versus San Francisco. Thinking only matchup. 2. Yeah.
Both
he's pitched like a 4, but I think I'm going to go 2 given what we just saw from him and the matchups here.
Yeah, it's interesting that Chicago's one of rate field at this point.
Guaranteed
gives
rate.
Up homers, but is not a terrible pitcher's park. Arizona they can't pitch, but they can sure hit. Yeah, I'm going to go 2 as well. And I should point out, in case anybody's listening, Logan Allen hasn't been bad lately, even though the number. But it's more about the eye test with him than it is with me. For me.
Yeah, same here. And then here are a couple 5s. I'd say Tarek Skubal and Framber Valdez. A Skubal versus the Athletics and versus Minnesota, and Valdez versus Philadelphia versus Chicago. Both 5s, right?
Yeah, I'm tempted to go 5 for the next guy. Yeah, no, yeah. The only thing I'll say about Tarek Skubal was, dang it, why couldn't we get him matched against Paul Skeens yesterday? That would have been fun.
I know. What? That was weird. Like, The rain out made it a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, I joked about it a week ago. I said, we need a rain out. We can get these two guys matched up. And we got the rain out. I know what, though. I mean, it was still raining. One of the reasons why it was a delay yesterday was because the Tigers didn't want Skubal to start the game and then have to, stop it and start it again. That's so the late delay. I don't know if that had anything to do with Paul Skeens pitching late, when the weather was more stable. But it was just one of those fantasy-wise, having separate, both have a better chance for a win. Baseball fan-wise, I wanted to tune into that matchup. But maybe we'll see it some other time.
Yeah, seemed like a good opportunity to see two of the best pitchers in the game match up.
Skubal was great. Skeens struggled at 5 walks, did not get the win. It was an extra inning win. Did you see that where it wasn't quite the Ron Artest basketball thing, but Santana and Tommy Pham had a little to do with the fans in the bullpen?
Oh, yeah, I did see that. Dennis Santana. That was weird. Jumped up and tried to smack the guy.
It's not weird that Tommy Pham was involved?
No, because he's always getting into something. But
yep.
That was strange. I wonder what was said there, but
yeah,
we'll see if any details come to light. And you hinted at it, Chris Bubich maybe a 5 versus Tampa Bay versus the Dodgers. With those matchups, though, I'm only going to go 4.
I am too. They're both at home, which I like. Mm-hmm. But as we say, we reserve the 5 for either the stud or the up and comer that's a little more dominant.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And then Jack Kohanowitz versus Boston versus Washington. We know the K's have never been there. I think his sinker was showing maybe some promise. He had a good outing against the Dodgers, but just too volatile for me. The Washington matchup may be somewhat appealing, but I'm going to go 0.
I've not even learned how to say his name yet. That I'm not into Kohanowitz. I learned how to spell it because I have to when I say stream against this guy, I have to know. I've been burned a couple times. No, I'm not. It doesn't strike out. It does not miss enough bats for me.
Yeah, I've called him almost everything under the sun. Kokanowitz, Kochanowitz.
Yeah,
but I believe it is Kohanowitz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not really a name that you have to know. We talked about the Dodgers sending Emmett Sheehan down, and with that, their rotation's really in flux. So no 2-star pitchers for them. We have Ohtani in there for next Sunday, which I think makes sense. But he's pretty much an opener at this point.
Yeah,
so
for
he's
sure.
A little bit stretched out more. Cal Quantrill at San Francisco, at Arizona. He's going to be a 0 for me.
I don't care. Yeah, you could whatever teams he's facing, 0.
Yeah, got to be a 0.
There's an interesting one.
Cal Quantrill. Yeah, Chad Patrick versus Pitt. Yeah, versus Pitt versus Colorado. You love that. And he's a rookie this year, right? I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah.
He's
so.
First 15 big league starts, 1.28 whip, a little high, but averaging about a strikeout per inning and pitching for a pretty solid club overall. With these matchups, I'm thinking 3. He's kind of a 2 pitcher with 4 matchups. Does that sound
right? I was thinking of 4. I'm using him. I'm going to say 3, but I'm using him.
Mm-hmm.
There's some inconsistency there, so I can see being a little hesitant, but I'm excited about this week for him for sure.
And I saw you tweeting the other night that you're going to have to find a new mediocre pitcher to tout because Bailey Ober seems to be pitched his way out of your good graces. Is that right, Todd?
It may or may not have been reverse psychology. I'll let people decide. No, it's been frustrating. This is the time of the year. Last year we went on a bit of a run because he had a little bit of a soft schedule. Someone tweeted at me that I should be using Colton Gordon instead. You know what? That was a really good call. He kind of fits the bill for the Astros, under the radar, strikes out a lot of batters, doesn't walk many, but yet doesn't get the aplomb that one would expect from someone with those numbers, which was Bailey Ober for all those years. So I forget who it was on Twitter that said Colton Gordon. He's my guy. He's my new guy. All right. Anyway,
that's a good one.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. It was more, somewhat tongue in cheek if you guys know me on Twitter, but I'm not. I can't point to anything and say Ober's coming back. And I don't exactly know what's going on. He always gives up homers, so to say he's giving up homers, I guess that means there's more ill timing of the homers, and there's more runners on base, basically due to walks, than normal with Bailey Ober. And I don't hate these matchups, but I mean, I don't love them either.
Yeah, I'm going 1 on Ober till I see more, and 2 on Paddock, personally. But
I still can't. I mean, Paddock had a bit of a bounce back. He's been in a bit of a rut. I still can't go high. I'm still not a Chris Paddock guy. I'm going to go 2 Ober, 1 Paddock.
Okay, I'll get you down on those. I'm a little, the Reds took 2 out of 3 against these Twins, and I'm just a little surprised to see them only at 500 when they won 13 in a row at one point. Like, how was that even possible? To be 37 and 37 when you had a 13-game win streak.
Right. No, you're right.
It's kind of amazing.
Actually, I'm curious. I meant to do the math. They haven't done it yet. I think the Nationals lost like 7 of the first 8, then 11 in a row. It's like, what are they in the middle? But again, that's what baseball is, ebb and flows.
So you said 2 Ober, 1 Patrick, right?
Yep.
Okay. Real quick, we had a question, just kind of a general strategy question from JPAC, wondering about, if your league scores quality starts instead of wins, is it a big difference or pretty slim? I lean toward the slim side just because, I think when you're projecting quality starts is tough. You have to go 5 for a win, of course. So I think it's pretty close and not something where I'd want to overthink it. I don't know how you would really. I mean, maybe you look at past year's quality start numbers, but it's one where I think, wins will generally lead you in that same direction. So not one I'd want to overthink. Any thoughts?
I don't think it matters how you're grading your starting pitchers a ton, because the ones that are favored by quality starts are going to be favored anyway. In the long run, it does take away some of the randomness with reliever wins. But that's not sort of the question. I prefer innings pitched to both of them, but that's discussion for an off season, I suppose.
Yeah, you've been beating the drum for innings pitched, and I do like that. I don't know if I'm still a hardcore traditional 5x5 type of player, but you make a good case for innings replacing wins eventually. Real quick, want to pause because we do have a brief word from our friends over at the NFFC. It is almost football season here. The NFFC RotoWire Fantasy Football Online Championship is live. Play fantasy football against your favorite RotoWire experts on NFFC this baseball season and football season. Jeff Erickson, Nick Whalen, and more will compete in the RotoWire NFFC Online Championship for a shot at $250,000. Sign up for a draft today at rotowire.com/high stakes. That's rotowire.com/high stakes. We appreciate their sponsorship of the show, and football season is going to be here before we know it. Back to our 2-star pitchers, though. Paul Blackburn. I can't see any case for old Paul Blackburn. Going to be a 0.
Can we go lower? Nah, I guess not. No, I'm going to go 0. How about the Mets, though? They having to use Blackburn. Tidwell tonight. I mean, we've got Montas coming back, maybe Minaya, but yeah, they're in a bit of a rut. Yeah, suddenly feels like Juan Soto's finally come around, but then everybody else on offense is kind of cooled. So yeah, Frankie Montas, who we have penciled in for Tuesday, has not been pitching very well on his rehab assignment. No, he hasn't. In fact, he's given up 13 earned runs in his last 2 starts. Let me look at these matchups again. Versus Atlanta at Pitt, I think he's going to be a 1, just given it is Montas, and he's been capable over the years. But I could see the case for 0 until he's further stretched out. Yeah, I mean, there was even talk of having Montas start off in the bullpen But
Yeah.
the Mets are so desperate for starters; they're going right up into the rotation. Yeah, I need to see it. He doesn't have the cachet to just trust. I need to see it from Montas first. Plus, we don't know how many innings he's going to go.
Yeah. So you're 0 on him.
Yep.
Okay, got you down there. Ranger Suarez, the lefty. I'm sorry, I missed Ryan Yarbrough. Ryan Yarbrough at Cincinnati versus the Athletics. We were kind of waiting for that run of good luck to end, and he did kind of. Well, he really hit the wall with that 8 earned run outing, but he's bounced back since. Still a guy that I find hard to trust given his track record over the years. At Cincinnati, I think I'm going to go 2 here on Ryan Yarbrough.
Am I going to go higher? I don't know. Am I going to go lower?
Mm-hmm.
It's still the same guy just flipping the ball up there, you know?
Yeah.
And
the Reds are, offensively are getting a little better. So
they are. They're picking it up.
Yeah.
I'm scared. I mean, there's so much volatility there with Yarbrough. I at this point I forget what you said, but I'm going to say 1.
Okay, I said 2, but I get where you're coming from. Matt McClain finally showing a little something offensively.
He's been in the 9 hole. I wonder if they'll keep him down there, if they'll move him back up now that he's hitting again.
Now we're on to Ranger Suarez. 6-1 with a 2.20 ERA, Ranger Suarez. At Houston, at Atlanta. Yeah, this is kind of tough matchups on the road. I still think with the way he's pitched, though, I got to go 3.
Those on YouTube may have seen me put my hand over the microphone trying to make the siren go away. Like that's going to work. Anyway, you said 3 on Suarez?
Yeah.
I'm at least a 4.
Okay.
No, you know what? Matchups, I can't go higher. I'm going to go 4. I know he missed
tough.
some of the year keeping the counting stats down, but liking what I'm seeing of Ranger Suarez.
Yeah, he's been really good. Kind of a tough road 2-step.
Yep.
Pittsburgh, no 2-star pitchers for them. And then Stephen Kolek, Washington at home and then at Cincy. Not a dominant arm, though. And Washington's just been so rough lately. I'm thinking 1 on Kolek, but it may be a case for a 2.
Maybe, but I'm going to go 1. Someone suggested Kolek as my Ober fascination replacement. But
I don't think he's good enough for that.
Yeah, it doesn't strike out as many guys. The idea being, you got to have the dominance, but just not get credit for it. Kolek doesn't even have the dominance. He's got the San Diego aspect of it, which is why it's a non-zero. But I'm just going 1.
For Seattle, Brian Wu and Luis Castillo at Minnesota, at Texas. Luis Castillo hasn't really pitched like a 5, but I'm thinking 5 for both of these guys, especially given how much you invested in them and how they've pitched overall. I think you're starting them across the board, so I'm going 5 for both.
Yeah, I think Castillo at this point, air quote, is what he is. He's not an ace, but he's still pretty darn good. Wu looked really good. And it's nice to see both Kirby and Gilbert looking more like them. Well, Gilbert was, I can't say looking more like himself, but he looked really good that one out. The one outing came back. Kirby's looking more like himself. If the hitters can continue to hit for Seattle and not crush, but be better than they were, there's a team that could make some noise. I'm gonna go 5 as well across the board.
And Justin Verlander returned to pitch 4 2/3 innings this week against Cleveland. Took the loss though. Now 0-4. Numbers not very good for the 42-year-old. Not really how you want to ride into the sunset. So you're still taking the ball every 5th day for this team, but I'm thinking 0. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go 1.
I am too. I'm glad I don't think there's anybody else at this point getting saying, but it's Justin Verlander. No, I think we're beyond that.
The matchups are Miami and the White Sox, so maybe even a 2. But I'm gonna stick.
Yeah,
with 1.
You know what? I think you're right. I think he is worth a 2. But I think the club just wants innings from him at this point.
Yeah.
Who would ever thought that's what we'd be saying about Justin Verlander? Just give me innings.
No.
before it was give me 8 innings of shutout ball.
Father Time is undefeated, as they say. Matthew Liberatore against the Cubs and then at Cleveland. He was on that hot run and was taking steps back, but versus the Cubs at Cleveland. Thinking of 3
I think this is big.
Liberatore.
Because, as you said, he's taken a step back. So we talk about hitters making adjustments all the time.
Uh-huh.
I think this is the time for Lieber, because I was impressed with Liberatore. I thought he earned the accolades he was getting after being kind of written off early. So I think this is a big couple of starts, especially, the Cubs. And right now the Cardinals are still in it. I don't know that they'll last, but right now they're still in the wild card hunt. So it's important. I'm going to go 3. But I am very curious, especially that Monday game with Liberatore, to see if he can rise to the occasion against the Cubs.
And Taj Bradley's been struggling. He's got a 4.95 ERA. And the Rays sticking by him for now, but I have to think the leash is kind of short given how well Joe Boyle is pitching.
We keep saying that, but about a different starter, right?
Joe Boyle's just, I don't know what else he could do he'd probably be in the rotation for 29 other teams.
Yeah.
They just not in any rush to bring him up. But Bradley at Kansas City, at Baltimore, seems like a pretty good.
Get back on track.
Yeah, seems like on paper a good week to get on track. I think I'm going to go 3 just because I still have hope and belief in Taj Bradley.
I am too, and it's probably. I hope it's not unfounded.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't love the fact they're away, but when you're getting out of Tampa, I don't mind it.
Yeah, it is kind of one where it's, a 3 based largely on expectations and what he should be doing rather than what he has done. But I think I'd still probably start him in most leagues.
Yeah, we're never surprised when Baltimore scores 7 or 8, but they've been not doing it long enough that you can't be scared of them anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were both on the road, but both pretty spacious venues there, KC and Baltimore. And then also at Baltimore is Patrick Corbin, then versus Seattle. Gosh, I don't even know if I want to give him a 1.
I don't want to be an analyst in a field that is considering giving Corbin more than a 1.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm going to, though.
I'm going 1.
I can't. I'm going 1. And you know what, though? That's like 3 spots higher than normal.
Yeah, true. Well, Max Scherzer is likely to return from the IL this next week. He's been on the 60-day IL, and you have to remember that thumb has been an issue when he gets up to close to 50 pitches and beyond. So still a lot of questions about how deep he can go, how well he can maintain his effectiveness deep into outings. At Cleveland, at Boston. Hey, this one's tough. I think in 3, but it's largely name value there.
I'm going to go 2. I wonder if Toronto, I don't say forcing it. If the thumb is still an issue once you get high in the pitch count, to me, that's not a good sign. He's been out long enough that it should just kind of go away. So I don't like that. But Toronto's sort of they need to find out what they are before the trade deadline, because they're a team that can go in either direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally for Washington, Mitchell Parker seems to be on shaky ground in that rotation, but then his last time out, 8 strikeouts, only 1 earned run. It was home against Colorado, though, so make of that what you will. But at San Diego, at the Angels, if he doesn't pitch well with this 2-step, we could see him bumped. Cade Cavalli, I think, is probably the next man up.
Yeah. I'd like to see Cavalli, but you never want to see a guy fail.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind seeing Cade Cavalli.
But yeah, this will be a tough 2-step at San Diego at the Angels for the lefty. I'm only going 1.
Yeah, I can only go 1 as well. Doesn't get the strikeouts, and now he doesn't have the command and control as he showed last year, Mitchell Parker. So, I'm going to go 1.
Yeah, maybe time to stash Cavalli if you're in a league that allows that. All right. Well, let's recap our 2-start pitcher grades for next week. The week of June 23rd, 2025. Almost the halfway point, right? Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Eduardo Rodriguez, we agree on a 3. Luis Severino, I say 1. Todd, 2. Spencer Schwellenbach and Chris Sale, 5. Trevor Rogers, 0. Walker Buehler, 1. Jamison Tyone, 3. Nick Lodolo, 2. Logan Allen, I say 1. Todd, 0. Herman Marquez, 0. Shane Smith, 2. Tarek Skubal, 5. Framber Valdez, 5. Chris Bubich, 4. Jack Kohanowitz, 0. Cal Quantrill, 0. Chad Patrick, 3. Bailey Ober, I say 1. Todd, 2. Chris Paddock, I say 2. Todd, 1. Paul Blackburn, 0. Frankie Montas, I say 1. Todd, 0. Ryan Yarbrough, I say 2. Todd, 1. Ranger Suarez, I say 3. Todd, 4. Stephen Kolek, 1. Brian Wu, 5. Luis Castillo, 5. Justin Verlander, I say 1. Todd, 2. Matthew Liberatore, 3. Taj Bradley, 3. Patrick Corbin, 1. Max Scherzer, I say 3. Todd, 2. And Mitchell Parker, 1. All right. Well, good stuff, Todd. I know you've been doing a lot of radio and more to come, but thanks for sparing an hour to talk with me. Anything else on your mind today?
I'm curious what's going on behind me today. There's been a bunch of sirens. We talked about it a little bit. Runs are going to start to creep up, folks. So, I mean, as a fan, I'm a big fan of big pitching too. But I'd just like to see the game played normally, and I think we're going to start to see that. You're the same way me, Clay. Is you wake up in the morning and brush your teeth, grab your coffee or make case Mountain Dew, and then the next thing you do is check the weather. You got to be your whole day, whatever you're going to write or talk about. You need to say if the game's going to be played that day. Mm-hmm. Amateur meteorology, and we got a great part on the site talking about tomorrow's weather or today's weather. I'm sorry, and the temperature, everything else. It's really cool.
Yeah, our guy Peter Jizik does an incredible job every single day, by the way.
Yeah.
He does the weather report. It's pretty awesome.
We got a quick question on Taylor. I want to find out from James what he thinks on Grant Taylor. I think I did ask him already. Is this a transition like Crochet to the rotation, or is this a Josh Hader where he does so well in relief? You never see him. He does so well in relief, you never see him starting again. The White Sox got a bunch of pitchers on the farm.
Yeah.
And even in the majors, we talked about Smith. I'm curious about Taylor. It's an arm I want and let things flesh out. Tonight's just an opener. I wouldn't be worried about tonight.
Yeah.
But Taylor's an interesting arm because I can see like Hader, you remember you were back when Hader was, he's going to be a starter for us, but we don't want to have him go, we want to stretch him out slowly. And he hasn't seen it in the first inning in forever, right?
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, Grant Taylor just threw an inning yesterday and probably not going.
So he may not. Sometime this weekend, I thought maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I think he's starting tonight. He is starting tonight, but like you said, just an opener.
Okay, you can go 2 days in a row.
Not going to be available for very many innings, but yeah, definitely an intriguing arm. Not a guy I know a ton about, but
no.
The White Sox team, at least, it's been bleak, obviously, the last few years, and they're in another rut right now. But on the pitching side, they got some players that are interesting long term, certainly.
Well, Smith and Burke are showing stuff in the major league level.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about Taylor. Trying to really quick use our site really quick. The 2 minor leaguers. Was it
Noah something?
Noah, yeah.
Schultz.
Noah Schultz, who I like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talked about Taylor, but this I want to say Hagen Smith, but I think he's on another team.
Hagen Smith is White Sox.
Okay, it is Hagen Smith, but he's hurt.
Yeah.
So most teams, not most, a lot of teams build from the batters in the minors and then trade for pitching. Crosstown 10 years ago, that's what the Cubs did. But it's interesting that the White Sox are taking the other route and trying to develop pitching and maybe trade for hitting. You know what? It kind of makes sense because you can once you're good, you can acquire a hitter or sign a free agent because Chicago's a good place to hit. It'd be tougher to sign a free agent. That was the whole Devers deal. San Francisco couldn't convince a batter to join him as a free agent. They had to trade for one.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, Noah Schultz having kind of a rough season this year.
He is.
Whip way high, and then his first start at AAA gave up 6 earned runs and 5 and 3.
And he's a faller on James's prospect ranking.
Not a good start for him, but some gems in the system, it looks like, for the White Sox. Well, great stuff. We appreciate everybody coming by the chat. Appreciate the insight as always, Todd. And we will talk to you guys next Friday. Hope you'll stop by on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast.